Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze, a show where the stakes are high, and so is one of the hosts. I'm your host, Professor Jeremy Vilmur. And joining us now, Art Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, Double B, Bobby Blaze.
And there's a good chance one of them might have been drinking. And that's me, Double B, Bobby Blaze. That's right, baby. Welcome back to another weekly podcast of the Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. And we've got an exciting show again this week. We'll get into that in just a minute. I know we've got some house cleaning to do, but I also wanted to mention real quickly, I thought last week's episode was pure class, man, on Paul Orndorff. Just want to thank you, Professor. It sounded great. We both gelled together. If you haven't listened, folks, go back and listen to it and turn a friend onto it as well, because if they were a wrestling fan, especially a Paul Orndorff fan, and we did him right, man. We sent him out in a good way, and I want to thank you because we completely professionally done that show, and man, a lot of good feedback that people were into it, and they appreciate our tribute to Paul Orndorff.
Yeah, that was a good episode. It was fun to record because, especially when you've got personal stories about a wrestler that we're talking about, that always makes a show much more enjoyable for me, and I bet for our listeners overall.
Yeah. So. I thought of something too since then. I had one more story. When I met Kevin Sullivan down in Knoxville before one of the Nitros, when Smoky Mountain had shut down, Kevin said, hey, said, Bobby, you want a job? You got one. Call Paul on Monday. Well, when I called Paul on Monday, I forgot this the other day after we recorded, but when I called the office, and again, this was we went on several times before we actually got to the contract deal, but he wanted me to come down for a TV. And he said, he goes, now, Bobby, you're not going to show up being 260, are you? I said, what? He goes, Kevin said you packed on a little bit. He goes, I don't need any more 250-pound guys down here. I said, no, Paul. I said, I'm weighing about 230. I said, that's about 10 pounds over where I worked at. I said, but I can get to 220 pretty good. And he said, okay, I just want to make sure. And then so we started going from there, and I thought that's funny that he said, I guess, but I was looking, and I do remember the shirt I had. I had a T-shirt. And then I had like a jean shirt over it, and it gave you an appearance that I was a lot bigger than what I was. I will say that. Yeah. It was one of them. It was a nice looking shirt, but it made a man look like a man. I'll say that. And anyway. Yeah, it just didn't work out that time, but that wasn't the reason why. But I thought about it the other day. Yeah, because he thought I was still in Knoxville. That's what happened, actually. He wanted me to go to Macon, Georgia, like the following week. And I was like, Paul, that's 75 pounds, past Atlanta. And he said, well, you're right there in Knoxville. You can make that. And I was like, no, I'm back home. And I said, I'm 8 hours from Atlanta. He said, oh, okay. And so that kind of started our negotiations. But anyway, I thought that's funny. And he said, hey, you ain't going to show up down here weighing no 260, are you? But see, Paul was a straight shooter. So, yeah. Right now, I might weigh in at 260, Paul.
Orndorff over there telling you, set down the chicken McNuggets now.
Yeah. Hey, here's a funny story. I have not had a chicken McNugget since 1983. An actual chicken McNugget. Now, I've eaten, chicken tenders and things. I've eaten my fair share of chicken, believe me. But, man, I ate some chicken nuggets in 1983, and I swear I got so fucking sick and puked my guts out. And that even when my kids were younger and we did road trips or just take them after a ball game, if they got fucking nuggets and that barbecue sauce, I'd roll the fucking windows down. I just about puke. I mean, I cannot stand that. You know how if you eat something one time that made you really sick? Dude, I can just not stand the smell of a chicken McNugget to this day. Now, I like me some fried chicken, but no McNuggets, thank you.
You wouldn't be a true Kentuckian if you didn't like fried chicken.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, man. So, my nephew sends me some nice chicken. He gets out Costco, dude. I put it in that air fryer, and it fries up real nice. So, anyway, go ahead.
I know exactly what you mean. When I was a teenager, I'm going to do this as quickly as possible. I had an uncle who was 10 years older than me, okay? And put him right between me and my dad age-wise. So he was like the cool uncle when I was a teenager. He was the guy that let you smoke and drink and party and hang out, bring chicks over. So me and my cousin, who was about 2 years older than me, were spending the weekend with my uncle, watching wrestling, hanging out, playing Nintendo, bullshit, right? One night, Mike goes, that's my uncle. He goes, hey guys, we goes, check this out. He goes, I'm going to get 5 girls to come over here back to back to back. And I'm going to get each one to bring a pizza, a 12-pack of beer, bang them, send them on their way, get the next one.
Damn.
We're just like, bullshit, fuck off. Well, girl number 1 shows up, 12-pack of Keystone, giant ass for that pepperoni pizza, plus the stuff to make tequila sunrises.
Oh, God.
So me and my cousin are getting shit-faced as my uncle is marathon running 5 women in a row who kept showing up with beer and pizza. We got so fucking sick. My cousin had a hangover for 2 days. Me, I didn't touch tequila again until I was in my mid-20s, and I'm sitting at a beer bar, and we're talking to these girls. One of them goes, hey, we got a bottle of Cuervo in the car. You want to come out for a shot? Sure, She hands me the bottle. I take a drink. I hand it to the next girl, and then it comes around one more time. I take a shot. As soon as it touched my tongue, I handed the bottle off. I walked over, and I puked up everything I'd eaten since 1978. I couldn't. Once I got the actual taste of Cuervo Gold in my mouth, it made me sick. And I realized that once you throw up tequila, it tastes the same when you drink it as when you throw it up. So I understand that. I smell tequila, and my stomach heaves on me. So I get it completely. Where you got a bad association.
That's not one of mine either. Yep. No, that's it. Yeah. All right, man. Well, listen, I guess we got a couple shout outs. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give out one real quick here. John Cosper, big shout out to him. He did an article introducing one of the students at the Art of Grappling School, and he wrote a nice little spotlight on an up-and-comer, and that goes to Judy Ray Hendricks, man. And he quoted me a couple of times, me and Jillian. She's been trained, doing real well, and I appreciate John writing a nice little article. I put that up on my Twitter at Bobby Blaze 744. I sent that out. John tagged me in it and tagged Jillian in it, and also Judy Ray. So if someone at the school wants to let Judy Ray know I gave her a shout out, that's fine. But don't let her head get too big. She's got a long way to go, but she's got great potential, Jeremy. I really think so. And John Cosper wrote a really nice article. Thank you, John, very much. He can be found at John Cosper. He's also the author of the with Johnny Candido, the Chris Candido book, No Gimmicks Needed. When I see him, and I hope to see him soon, I'm going to get his book on Tracy Smothers. And he's got a couple other books as well. I just don't have it right in front of me. But anyway, you can follow him on Twitter at John Cosper. And then we got another person from our Twitter feed. I'll let you make this shout out, and then we'll explain why and what So anyway, who are you going to bring up here?
I guess we're going to talk about Sparks Third Coast here, huh?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Sparks, thank you, my man. He sent Jeremy and myself these really nice Irish McNeil Boys Club T-shirts, and man, I got me the long sleeve black. And it's really doctored up there, man, kind of like what you said, Bullet Club. It's got some chains, dog collars, some guy holding a belt, the state of Louisiana on it. Really cool stuff, man. I can't wait to wear it. It'll be about another month, probably, once we get through August here. I think this is September wear, and I will post that on Twitter. It's an excellent-looking shirt, man. And thanks, Sparks. We appreciate that. Anything to say to Spark? We got one more Mississippi guy we want to bring up.
You know what? Just that he runs a show for Booking the Territory. It's one of their paid Patreon shows where they talk about the new NWA stuff that's going on. I don't know what the release schedule is, but get over there if you get a chance and look for his show. It's on the Patreon page. We're going to have to get ourselves one of those, Bobby, at some point.
I thought about that the other day because I saw Theo Vaughn, the comedian, on his Patreon page. He uses that money to help out single mothers, sends them money to go out with their kids and do something fun. And I thought, man, if we had a Patreon, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah. I know several people have it, but we could do something fun with it, like split it and buy beer. But anyway,
I'll support
we could help single mothers too.
I was going to say, I'll support some single mothers with it.
Yeah. But anyway. Yeah, we need to look into that. Good on you, Sparks.
Yeah, did you know there is no champagne in the champagne room? I did discover this.
No, I did not know that.
I also learned that I can lose $1,200 just as quick at a topless bar as I can at a Chemin de Fer table. Yeah, but anyhow.
Okay. Well, let's give one more shout out to another buddy of ours from down in Mississippi, and that's Adam. He always listens to the program and posts something real positive about it, and we appreciate that, Adam. You taking the time to tag Jeremy and myself, as well as the Bell to Bell Blaze podcast on those Twitter feeds, and giving us that feedback. And he left some real good feedback on the Paul Orndorff one as well.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that. People that take the time to
what's funny
let
is
us know
when I upload those shows like at midnight, going into Tuesday morning. I usually hit refresh once or twice once it's up just to see if any numbers pop up right away. And two or three different times now I've hit it and it shows like one has already gone. And every time that happens, I just go, well, there's Adam. So
there's Adam.
Yeah, there's
check
Adam.
it in.
So
that's cool, man.
That's always nice of him. I do always appreciate him taking the time to do that. Everybody else who's listening, please take the time to rate and review our show wherever you listen to it, especially on iTunes if you listen, or Apple Podcast, as they call it. Give us a rating, give us a review, and remember, Bobby and Jeremy Suck is not a review.
That's right. Also, while we're at it, I'm going to give out our Twitter accounts. I'm at Bobby Blaze 744. Jeremy's at the Geekish Cast, or you can hit us up at the Bell to Bell Blaze. All of those are on Twitter, and Jeremy does have a Facebook page up as well on Bell to Bell Blaze. So thank you very much. And again, iTunes, as they call it, that'd be the that's where we get some good reviews. We appreciate that. Just be fair and honest. Yeah. That's all we appreciate. Jeremy, so next week, man, hopefully I have a good report about what took place that I'm getting ready for right now. It's live pro wrestling, Saturday, August the 7th, bell time 7 o'clock at the Beckley Riley County Convention Center, and that's the old National Guard Armory there. It's a hell of a good building. I read off a couple names here, man. The Heat Seekers, one hell of an unsigned tag team. Kerry Morton's going to be there. Let's see here. Ron Mathis, Davey Richards, Matt Cardona, and Heath from Impact, former WWF talent, and Brian Myers from Impact. Now listen here, man. Stephen P. New from New Taylor and Associates Attorney at Law. They're one of the big sponsors of this show. It's the Bash in Beckley. The doors open at 5, man. The matches start at 7. And I know we're taking, I'm taking a couple friends with me. My brother's taking me up there, and I'm looking forward to spending time with him because the main event, my man, is Shane Storm is going to battle Jerry the King Lawler. And I'm going to be in Shane Storm's, hey, doggy, hey, dog, whoa, no barking, trying to work here. So I'm going to be in Shane Storm's corner. But, I told you before I signed this deal, I was not aware of it, but now they've got Dennis Condrey.
Oh boy.
Of the legendary Midnight Express. He's going to be in Jerry the King Lawler's corner as an enforcer. So we'll just have to see, and I hope all the people that can hear my voice in the greater tri-state area, if you're in, Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, maybe Virginia, over in that area, come on down. South Carolina, not too far away. Maryland, not too far away. Just depends on where you're at. But anyway, come on down, man, and check out the Bash in Beckley. And I'll be there having a meet and greet beforehand, signing a few autographs, and then we're gonna get all real serious. And I beat Jerry the King Law before, and now one of my proteges, a young Shane Storm that I've known since he was 17, has had a lot of matches and wrestled some top guys in this business. He's going to be taking care of Jerry the King Lawler. I'm just going to keep one eye open for that daggone, one on Jerry and one on Dennis Condrey, man, and help my man get the win, I hope.
So I know that you and the King have a little bit of heat from back in the day, but how about you and Dennis Condrey? Is there something there?
No, there shouldn't be, but I'm wondering if there's not. Okay, and I'll tell you why. I've only met Dennis one time, and that was 2 years ago up in Charleston at the ASW. That's the sponsor of the show, too, All-Star Wrestling. When they had the 30-year reunion for Corny and Bobby, and they had them all together. Bobby was there with Dennis, and, of course, I knew Stan before that because he was in Smokey when I was there, and I've been to a convention or two with him since. But I had never had the pleasure of meeting Dennis, and I met him that night, very briefly, and I don't think there's any heat, but now I'm starting to wonder, man, when they bring him in, as an enforcer, and after the fact that I was already on the show, going to be in Shane's corner. I don't know what Gary Dameron up there is trying to pull or whatever, but I'm just thinking now I got to protect my interest, which is my body and myself, as well as the interests of my client, Shane Storm, and we'll see how he fares well against Lawler. But Condrey, I just don't know, man. We have to, if he's going to be an enforcer, that has to work both ways, I think. I don't think now they're saying he's going to be a Lawler corner. Whatever, I don't know.
Big difference in those two spots,
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, man. So they're changing it up. I think they're, screwing around with me a little bit, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll see.
You didn't scratch his Lincoln or something, did you?
No, but that's one of my favorite all-time interviews when he said that, I got a Lincoln Continental and it don't float there. And when you threw it out there last week, I love that, man. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't fuck with another man's car, man.
Yeah, it's probably best not to, yeah.
No, sir. But anyway, Bash in Beckley next 7, August the 7th. Bell time at 7, doors open at 5. It's going to be a great show, and looking forward to seeing a lot of good people over there in Beckley, because it's been about 20 years since they've had any wrestling there of this caliber, and that's when Smoky Mountain used to run it about every 2 or 3 months.
Oh, wow, okay, cool.
So I got one more announcement, and then we can get on with the program. Time Warp. Big shout out to Time Warp, Jeremy. I know you would love this store. The Geekish Cast, the Geek in You would love this store, man. All these collectibles, and I'm talking baseball cards, and vintage video games, and arcade games, and if you name it, Earl can get it. I'll tell you that. So, Earl and Joe, thank you, because August the 14th, the following Saturday, from 5 until 7 at the Ashland Town Center location. Yours truly will be there for a meet and greet. I'm doing free autographs of the pictures they provide. I will sign anything you bring free. Now, we do have special packages of signing, and of course, books, et cetera. That's not free, but there will be free autographs per my appearance, because I never signed for an autograph for someone. FTC is a co-sponsor of that. Again, it's at the Time Warp at the Ashland Town Center, and I'm going to be representing the Art of Grappling School as well. So I'm there, on behalf of myself, on behalf of Earl and Joe, and the Art of Grappling Professional Wrestling School. Come on down, say hey. Looking forward to it, man. I got a surprise the other day. Someone sent me a little picture. I won't go into personal stuff, but, someone I know and love and care for. They sent me a picture, and it was of a little girl standing right beside the sign where they had a big advertisement up down by the Time Warp, and I popped for it, and basically that's what was said. A little girl walked through the mall, and I go, "Mom, there's Pops." And it was a picture of me, of course, a big poster of me, and I thought that's pretty cool, man. So anyway, it was cool. So totally unexpected.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That place sounds like it'd be right up my alley, because, way back in time, I even had a used video game store in the 90s.
Okay.
So it's not something I talk about a lot, but it is interest, because now my plan was I was going to try to be there for this match with Shane and Lawler.
Right.
And,
we had talked about that.
Yeah, and that whole thing fell apart on me because stuff happened. So I ended up adopting a puppy and never going on vacation again. But I was really looking forward to seeing that. So, guys, if you're in the area, definitely go check it out,
Yeah, you would dig it, man. They got 2 locations. I'm going to be at the town center location, as mentioned. But, man, they've got, Jeremy, I'm telling you, they've got everything you're looking for, man. I mean, it's an incredible store. It really is. Yeah. It really is, man. Earl's put this thing together, and they got a good location there at the mall, and I wish them the best of luck. So anyway, when you do come to Ashland, Kentucky, or the greater tri-state area, we'll get down there and see Earl and check out his shops, and y'all can take it in. I bet you it's been a couple hours in that damn place. I guarantee
likely,
it. Yeah. Well, I'll be there for a couple hours August the 14th. So
everybody get over there and meet Bobby, get his autograph, and check out the Time Warp. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone and all that.
That's it, man. Hey, you want to get into this show?
Yes, let's do.
Okay. Top 5 eras in pro wrestling. Now, did you spell that eras A-R or E-R-A-S or E-R-R-O-R-S? What are the errors here, Jerry?
Well,
help smarten us up, Doc.
I spelled it E-R-R-O-R-S, but that's because I can't spell.
Okay.
What I meant was E-R-A-S.
Yes.
But we're going to talk about what we kind of feel are the 5 most important eras in pro wrestling history. Now, us being of a certain age, these are going to be relatively modern, just because this is what we know. But I did want to put 2 honorable mentions in here real quick before we get down to our 5.
I
want to say number 1 honorable mention is going to be the Golden Age. Back in the old days of television, the DuMont Network aired wrestling every night of the week. And this is the Gorgeous George era. This is when, Gorgeous George and Lucille Ball sold more televisions than any television salesman. That was a big deal. And Bobby, my other one is now, like right now. I think there's an upside to pro wrestling right now we haven't seen in 25 years. There is more product.
I'm glad you threw that one out there for us.
Yeah. There is more product available, and you know, whether or not you like AEW, every week these guys are pulling people up from the indies and smaller feds and putting them on TV. They're cycling through other talent rosters and bringing people in and out on a major television deal. You still have the WWF and all of their product. You know, it's just, I think right now, if everything plays out well and this, we don't go back into a full lockdown because of COVID, because some of you guys think your freedom is more important than my freedom and you don't have to wear a mask or get a shot. But if nothing goes wrong, we could be seeing a great era in pro wrestling again.
I will agree, but I appreciate you bringing that up. I knew you had mentioned earlier, but wasn't on our list in writing, but I think that's 2 good honorable mentions, because I do think right now, man, you know, just a couple years ago when we started this program, basically it was WWE, WWE. We had some little things on the side. Don't get me wrong, you turned me on to the California or Hollywood Championship Wrestling and some other stuff, and then, you know, slowly but surely some things started happening, man. Ring of Honor started to get a little bit more popular. The NWA started back up. The T-shirt company become a AEW, like we said, you know. So there's that competition, man. You know, I think it makes, when you have that competition. Well, here's a couple things. First of all, it gives more places for people to get a paycheck. You know, the girls and boys can get out there, grown men, women, what have you, just say the boys. Got more opportunity to draw a paycheck, and that's a good thing. And it gives you, the viewer, an option to watch different programming. And as a fan, had it not been for this COVID, which, again, we should kick this thing to the ass. We had a chance, but we'll get it right one of these days, folks. Come on. Anyway, that you had more options to get out and go to a show. You know, a lot of good indies out there, and like you said, some of these guys are getting, and girls are getting exposure, you know, by getting pulled up to some of these the programs that are on television. So we got a lot more to work with now, and if things stay on the upswing, we can see some good things happening again. Someone said, I saw a girl's tweet the other day that said, pro wrestling isn't dead. Well, I had that conversation just a few years ago with Cornette, and again, this has been a couple years ago. Like, I said, Jimmy, I think me, you, and Bobby's eating about the only three that still fucking believe in this thing. And we were ribbing around, of course, and he said, yeah. And I said, is it dead? And he said, well, if it's not, it's on fucking life support, you know. But I think it's pulling through. I really do. And again, that's been a couple years ago, and I'm just, you know, wisecracking there, but the actual conversation. But yeah, I don't think it's dead, man. And I think it's them beats are getting stronger and faster and louder, or whatever it takes to bring back. I think it's coming off that life support, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I think
I really do. I want to believe that. Yeah. Maybe I'm smoking the opium or the hopium. I'm sorry, no opium, hopium, and having a few beers. Maybe I'm just wishful thinking, Jeremy. But no opium. Sorry, but hopium. Yeah, you know what I meant. Ignite that out of there. Edit.
I'll get right on that, Bobby.
Okay.
I mean, just, you know, you look at where we were when we started this show 3 years ago, and like, I think somewhere in the top like first 5 episodes, we were basically eulogizing wrestling. We were like, the good old days. Remember when we were wrestling, and a lot has changed. Like when we took our hiatus last year in my little mournful, half-drunken goodbye episode that I did. One of the things I was like, look, we're leaving. Wrestling's better than it's been in years. So, if we got to go, it's an okay time for us to get out,
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I found, I'm sure you did too, and I think our fans will be happy we didn't follow this course of research for this week, because we're going off a lot of shit that and I know, and probably a lot of our fans know the way we did it. When you do a search, and I didn't do a whole in-depth search of things, I kind of had an idea of what 5 things I'd like. And again, I'm glad you put the, current product out there. Yeah. And of course, we can never forget, the golden era originally, back when first TV first hit, like you said. But you do them, and it's all WWE. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it's and they started putting all these, and I'm like, okay, I knew better to do that anyway, but I just wanted to see. And I was right, and you probably found it too. And you can go to anything, Google it, Yahoo it, YouTube it. I don't know, but you're gonna get a lot of WWE stuff. But we do have some WWE stuff on there. I'm just saying the way they do the research, well, you have to dig deep sometimes, or already know what you're looking for, which I had a good idea of some things I was looking for, not specifically WWE, although we are going to put them over. They're probably listed somewhere in this top 5.
Oh, absolutely.
But I just hate when you do it, you Google something, and it's all their shit, their top 5 errors. They're, like, come on, man, give it a break. But anyway.
It's that thing, they were the only game in town for 20 years, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
But even like, I'm sure we've done it, I just haven't paid attention to it, but we try to delineate between WWE and the rest of wrestling, and we try to draw a line between pro wrestling and sports entertainment. Even, as nebulous as those differences can get, But I noticed that, like, even our good friend Dave Lee over at Dave Knows, he'll do that sometimes. He'll say WWE when he means all of wrestling, or he'll say wrestling when he means WWE. And there's this thing that I'm not going off on a rant here, but there's this thing that happens when people talk about how much wrestling is this, that, or the other. And I'm going, you're not talking about wrestling. You're talking about Vince McMahon's company that pretends to be a wrestling company. Yeah.
It's like, here's what happens, I think, and I don't know, I don't think it pertains to our audience per se. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Of course, we appreciate our audience and our fans, and we appreciate your feedback for our podcast. But, like a Kleenex and a Xerox, what I'm saying? You got those names. Well, we're talking about, it could be fucking Puffs, or it could be, a copier machine. The people that don't really know, when you're talking about wrestling, I do a wrestling podcast. Oh, WWE? That's the first thing they say is they associate anything with wrestling as WWE, but that's all they know.
Yeah.
And I was listening to someone's podcast the other day talking about some of the current wrestlers on indie shows. Now, this isn't necessarily my opinion of this, but they were talking about, for the last 20 years, and we're talking about people probably in their early, 25 to 30 that may be wrestling. What they grew up seeing, though, was the last 20 years of Raw, so that's all they really know, maybe, unless they are a student of the game and go back and look and watch, some old school wrestling or some of these wrestling eras we're going to be speaking about. That's all they know is like WWE, to them, that's wrestling, and that's fine. At least they're watching, so.
Yeah, it's,
but anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's, the famous quote by Karen on Corner Gas. People call it Kleenex, even if the brand of Kleenex they're using is some other brand of Kleenex.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that it drives me nuts when I notice it. And of course, I'm sure if I play back an episode of our show, one of us has done it as well. But
probably.
All right. Well, Bobby, let's get this.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Started. Yeah. Let's, number 1. We're going to call this the 80s through the early 90s.
Yeah, man.
And this is going to be the wide scale. This isn't like the rock and wrestling alone. We're talking about, this is a period of time where cable TV was taken off, and suddenly you couldn't go up and down your dial without hitting some new wrestling product on ESPN or somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wrestling was taking off. It was on MTV. WCCW was on TV and in syndication. This, I would say, was a great era for wrestling just because of that.
Yes, I love that time period. I was going to shows in 1980, 81, 82 in the market I was in. We got Memphis here once. We got it, regular on TV as far as coming around. They came to this area once, sold out the National Guard Armory, but we got the NWA, coming to Huntington and Charleston, West Virginia. And then in 83, 84, 85, I was closer to Lexington, Kentucky, and I went to some of the Memphis shows in that area, when they did Lexington once a month. I think it was on Thursday night. I got to see all those events, and then in 85, I was in Maryland and Baltimore, staying with my grandmother, my uncle at the time. My grandfather just passed away, and I went up there and spent almost a year up there, and got to go to the, WWF came through there, as did the NWA, hot town for the NWA, and I'm talking. I left on the day of the first WrestleMania, March 31st of that year of 85. So obviously I didn't watch it, or anything. I just remember that day because I wrote about it in one of my books, the train ride. There was a young guy on the train that was coming back from Baltimore, and we struck up a conversation. He's a big wrestling fan, and it was just happened to be that day of WrestleMania. And we probably drove his fucking poor mother insane. I was about 20, 21 years old, whatever it was, and me and his kids sit there talking about wrestling the whole fucking train ride, and that's actually what I'm trying to be. I'm gonna be a wrestler, So all that era, man. Then of course we'll get into this in just a little bit, but all the way through I'm not gonna give it away some of the other ones, but what I'm talking about, man. Just that the TV. You come home after school. I know one of my younger brothers come home and he turned that WCCW on ESPN, every day at 4:00, or I was like, fuck yeah, right on, Anyway, good time. Of course, the rock and wrestling, WrestleMania, all that. So we said through the early 90s on that before some other changes started taking place. TBS was going, that was pretty hot. We had NWA on syndication. We had it on a Saturday night. After Georgia Championship Wrestling, we had it on a syndication on about 11:30 on a Saturday night and a Sunday night, and it was actually two different programs a lot of times, like a worldwide, but it wasn't. I don't think it was worldwide then, but it was an NWA product being syndicated. So lots of wrestling through that time, and great house shows. A lot of great towns out there. It was still,
Oh well, yeah. That was kind of the dying days of the territory. So the odds were there was something going on in your neck of the woods.
Yeah. I listed a couple there earlier, like from Tampa, the Florida, we had the Florida Championship was going on. You had Memphis going on. You had the UWF going on. Portland was still running, Texas always had something going on. Like I said, WCCW, probably Southwestern down there, Southwest.
Yeah.
In San Antonio or whatever. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. And then that whole East Coast corridor, they ran those big cities, like I mentioned, Baltimore. They ran Boston, New York, Philly, Baltimore, D.C., straight down, Oh,
yeah. Well, Houston was still running at this time, and Paul Bosch was actually getting ready to sell the Nick Bockwinkel. That was Nick Bockwinkel's original retirement plan, was to buy Houston.
That's what you told me.
Yeah, and take over down there. Of course, that kind of fell on its ass, and he ended up having to stay on TV in wrestling through the rest of his life, basically. But that was his plan. So, but all those markets were still going for a while, at least. Like San Francisco would stick around till 82. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. You brought up a thing before around 82. We were doing a year-end thing. Yeah. And if you look, there was a lot of companies that actually shut down around 82, you was telling me.
It was just like, it was as you go through, you'd see 1982 was basically the end of San Francisco. It was the end of LA, basically. One of the Texas feds folded at that point. It was a lot, which was kind of weird because 2-3 years later, and man, you're off on a hot spell again.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on. Well, number 2.
2. Yeah. Big one here.
Yeah,
we both agreed on this one. Not that we didn't agree on the other one. We had actually put two different things for two different reasons and come to the conclusion here. that these were our top 5. So number 2 was what, Professor?
Number 2 is going to be the Monday Night Wars.
Yes. Speak on it, brother.
Well, so, I hadn't watched wrestling for years, and I was flipping through the channels, and I saw Macho Man coming out to the ring. And I was always a huge Macho Man mark. That was one of my dudes.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, watch this. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, is that Hulk Hogan wearing Ric Flair's belt? And wait, hold on. Macho Man and Hogan are wrestling when I was still thinking NWA at the time, because I didn't quite know about the buyouts. And I go, wait, Hogan and Macho Man are in the NWA? What the shit is this? So I watched pretty much religiously from that moment on. That was one of those Monday nights where I was flipping through the channels and hit Monday Nitro, and never looked back. It was a great time for wrestling. Bobby, and I'm going to say one of the things I think makes this stand out and made it work so well is they played with our kayfabe expectations perfectly. Having Razor Ramon, quote unquote, come down to the ring through the crowd.
Yeah.
Spiking Rey Mysterio Jr. into the side of that production trailer. Shit like that. I mean, just like they actually, even though kayfabe was breaking down around us, and Vince McMahon had already admitted to court that it was not real, and all of our assumptions were, it's got to not be quite real, and the internet was around. Man, this show started playing on that. They would do shit, and you're like, holy shit, that looked pretty real,
Yeah. And like I said, the competition factor, man. Now the guys in New York, WWF, WWE, many of those guys had actually been in WCW. I won't say many of them, a few of them had, that rose to the top up there, but they pushed themselves, and they knew they had to push their product because there's a new kid on the block, so to say, and that's thus the Monday Night Wars. So every Monday night, whether you tuned in at 8 o'clock, and the first hour there for a while was just Nitro, I think, because Raw didn't come on till 9, if I'm not mistaken, or however they did that. And then Raw started coming on at 8. And did a 3-hour show, if I'm not mistaken, to equal what they was doing over on Turner. So you had people flipping back and forth. You had college kids throwing, Monday Nitro parties. You had them throwing Raw parties. It was I think in 98. It might have been. I would say 97, but I want actually it's 98. You almost quote me on that. 6 out of the top 10 cable TV shows were pro wrestling related. It might have been 99, but again, you got Raw, Nitro, you had SmackDown and Thunder, you had there's one more I'm leaving off there. I'm gonna skip over. I'm drawing a blank on that one. Saturday morning, Saturday All Star. It was the show. For WWF, the syndicated show, and then you had on Sunday you had worldwide. So you had 3 and 3. You had 3 NWA or WCW products, and you had 3 WWF or WWE products. Out of the 10 top cable programming, 6 of them were wrestling. Eating up that market. And again, this is something that goes way outside of just a couple people watching some professional wrestling. It became mainstream, basically, to where you see the T-shirts and stuff. We did a special on that. I
don't remember another time where wearing a wrestling T-shirt was cool. I mean, guys you'd go somewhere and these you'd see these kind of gangstered out looking dudes wearing a black and white NWO shirt, standing right next to some nerdy fuckers wearing an NWO shirt, standing next to some hillbilly wearing a Stone Cold T-shirt,
I didn't own one. You didn't see that picture of me wearing it, so quit. But no, that was just man. It just put that might have been a time. I don't know. But it might have been a time instead of when you said pro wrestling, people didn't say, "Oh, that WWF stuff." They might have said, "Oh, you're talking about WCW or you're talking about WWF?" Because this is what I watch. You know what I'm saying? And I'm using the F word because that's what it was at the time. So a conversation maybe struck up like it. No, we're talking pro wrestling, but also like, well, which pro wrestling are you watching? You know?
Yeah. Well, and remember for a couple minutes there, you even had ECW on TV. You know. So you had this wide open. I mean, you know, look, I mean, it was no major player like WWF and WCW, but it had a thumbprint in there. So that was a cool time. It was exploding. It was everywhere. It was hip. That was really the surprising part to me. It was cool to be into wrestling. Yeah. You know.
And I was there from 97 through 99 of that time, and I was at a lot of those Nitros tape live. I was going to say tapings. I was at a lot of those live, and generally they would have 60 to 70 people in the back at any given minute to go. And then what happened was a lot of times at 8 o'clock, at 5 till 8 or 7:56 in the evening, someone's not fucking going to do the job, and they're wiping the whiteboard down. They're putting this person on. Whereas Vince already had a book of this is what we're doing 3 months out, you know, and that's kind of what happened there. But I make light of that again, going back to how did they stay in business, you know, in spite of themselves. Well, you know, they were doing something. I think they won 26 weeks in a row or 83, whatever the fuck it was. I don't know. But anyway, the fact is that you know. I know, guys, this happened. You know, if we didn't work the show, for example, you could leave the building and be back at your hotel room or at the restaurant bar and me watching it, you know, as it unfolded. If you desired, you could watch it live or be, you know, once you signed in and done. And I know I've seen it happen. There were guys in the locker room, some of the top guys that would be watching a monitor of what they were doing over in WWF at the time. And I heard word that there were guys in a locker room that was working, you know, watching WCW from New York, you know. Yeah. And I was actually in a bar, hotel, restaurant, whatever. I've been in those where at 9 o'clock, people change the channel. You'd be watching Raw, or Nitro rather, and people, boom, the people management of the establishment, you know, this is what we watch every Monday. And they switched to Raw, you know. So it was interesting time to say the least, man.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, Bobby,
for professional wrestling.
I got to get this out of my head because otherwise I'm going to sit here and think it the whole time. I'm picturing you sitting like at a bar with a buffet, like watching wrestling, right? Like you got in, did your thing, went back to the hotel early, whatever, right? But then I'm picturing Paul Orndorff like hanging out outside this buffet, like, God damn it, Bobby, eat a salad, put that chicken down.
Yeah. Now we got buffet. That was one of the good things about the TV was it's catering, and you got catered to. So whatever time you had to be at the building, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Usually on those shows you had to be there at one to Nitros, and TV were 4, pay-per-views were like 1. But you had a huge buffet. Dude, they had steak and chicken. Some of them had fish. Then they always had 2 or 3 different kind of pasta dishes. And generally, if we were in like, you know, say he's in Texas, you had a brisket and barbecue. If you were, you know, depending on the market you were in, what you had. Then of course they had fresh vegetables and salads. They always had, you know, waters. They had a cooler, you know, they had iced tea, sweet tea, coffee. And then they had milk, you know, big gallons of milk there, and desserts, just about everything you can imagine. And you know, thing about that I remember, and I was just thinking about as you said that. And of course you could eat there. Then after show, sometimes you go out, you know, if you're done or whatever, depending on what time you're done. But most people went to a Waffle House. But if not, you know, if you're on the road, you're eating out of Applebee's or something, you're having a beer and, you know, doing that. But back to the buffet thing is, I've heard people sitting in there and complain, and you got all this good food, and they've flown you to this town, and I'm sitting there going, people will bitch, and I'm going, are you kidding me? They said, why would you go? I had a goof. This guy's dead now. Just I could say it. He was a goof. Someone thought he was in the wrestling business that wasn't. And we had a mutual friend, and he said, why would he go on TV like that and get beat? And I'm like, are you kidding me? This dude had never left this area until he fucking died. But anyway, the thing is, I'm like, dude, you tell him this. They fly you to the building they've rented. They pay you to be there. They feed you while you're there. You get TV exposure for other bookings, and it's a work, and I'm like, and then I've had people sit there, Jeremy, and they'll bitch about the brisket in Texas. I'm just throwing that out there because it's on my mind. And we're looking, and it's someone like, I'll just say like me and Booker T and Barry Horowitz, so just saying. And we'll look over at them and go, hey, are you fucking kidding me? You got every selection of meat and fish up there you can imagine. There's all kinds of pasta dishes and vegetables and salads. And there's all these, it usually had cakes and stuff over there and pies, which I love pie. But I'm sitting there going, and we're all looking at them like, are you, what world do you fucking live in, man? You don't eat this good at home. Yeah. For sure. You're getting all this fucking food catered to you. It's called catering, motherfucker. Don't complain. And I know a lot of guys, though, I say that came from like my situation, that were very, very grateful that, I can't believe that my athletic talent, my wrestling ability got me here. And this is part of the reward is they fly you here. They feed you here. They give you exposure here, and they fucking pay you. Are you kidding me?
Write you a check, yeah. Bobby,
and it shows up every 2 weeks in a FedEx truck.
my great grandmother used to have a saying, and it was that guy would bitch if he was hanging from a new rope, and.
Never heard that.
Yeah. That was one of my favorites because it's true. Some people will complain about everything. Yeah. But real quick, as a side story, you're talking about craft services, catering, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Real early on when gay weddings were first allowed in California, I went to a lesbian wedding with my ex-wife. Okay. And as the food was coming up, somebody goes, they only have vegan and vegetarian. And I was like, what the fuck? And it reminded me of that old joke, like we play both types of music, country and western.
Western, yeah.
And I was like, they got to be fucking around, right? There's no way you do a vegan and a vegetarian. That's the same thing, isn't it? No,
right.
Everything. There was two sides. One side was vegan, one side was vegetarian. And I'm like, what a bunch of bullshit. I'm wearing a suit for this? I
wonder where the fish was at.
I was surprised there wasn't more carpet for munching, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's,
whatever.
Yeah. No. Let's go to number.
Well, don't give me any fucking attitude, Jeremy. That's where we're going with that. We're going to go right to number 3. There's your segue. Attitude Era. Tell us about it, Professor.
Now, the Attitude Era is kind of a subset of the Monday Night Wars in a way, except it kind of keeps going once the Monday Night Wars fall.
Mm-hmm.
But once the Stone Cold thing turned out to be a hit and you couldn't stop it, it was a runaway train, and they realized that their new generation, or whatever they were calling it, was a dud. The Attitude Era kicked in and it took off, man. It was a big deal. It is what won the Monday Night War, in a manner of speaking.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the current stars came from, The Rock, Stone Cold, those guys. This was their breakout period.
Yeah. Thing about that too, those guys, other than The Rock you mentioned there, man, over there on that, when I say over there, I'm turning a dial on my head because Mick Foley just won, a former employee here of WCW, just won the WWF title, but a lot of those guys that didn't get signed went up there, became big stars, man. And a couple of them, it couldn't happen to nicer people and that worked their ass off and were just let go, or whatever, and found greener pasture, so to say. And man, they just skyrocketed that fucking program, though.
Yeah, well, and that's the reason.
A lot of talented people during that time.
Yeah, that's why it's good to have other places for people to go. You don't know what to do with them. Well, somebody will figure it out. Nobody knew what to do with Cactus Jack. Somebody figured it out.
Someone figured it out, man.
Yeah, nobody knew what to do with, superstar Steve Austin. Well, somebody figured it out.
Yep.
So,
and but yeah, that's and the thing about that time too. When you turn that program on, I know before I step my my own toes here saying I know we're the Mysterios and the Hoovies and a couple of smaller guys, the lightweights per se, or the cruiserweights or whatever, your Malenkos and Guerreros, we're over there, smaller guys, but they actually were pretty muscular guys when I say smaller. You know what I'm saying? They were just maybe shorter in stature, whatever. But the fact what I was getting at is when you turned that on and you saw The Rock or Mick Foley or Stone Cold, you saw Vince McMahon himself. You saw grown fucking men on that channel fighting. You know what I'm saying? You're like, holy shit. Or, wrestling or what have you. And I'll say this, I've said it before, I don't know if I said on this podcast or not, but if I had, it probably was earlier on. I mentioned this earlier. It's 7:57, and you got live TV start at 8 o'clock, and they're changing names because someone doesn't want to do the job in the main event or whatever. Then someone said, well, I'm not working with this guy. And I've seen someone, I won't mention his name, just walk up to the board, wipe his name off, and say, I'm not wrestling him tonight, and it's fucking quarter till. And it was like one of the earlier matches, well, between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock segment. Whereas, like I said, Vince had stuff figured out for 3 months in advance or what have you. But those, those same guys, when you go on the air like that, at the end of the program, to me, when WCW went off at the end of the night, it was a clusterfuck. Someone had ran in. No one actually got beat. There was no one did the job per se. There was a disqualification. It was a clusterfuck. You know who won. Whereas on the other channel, on WWF, hear me out here. You had guys every week when a program went off. You actually know who won and who lost. Right. There was an angle. And I saw Mick Foley get beat by The Rock. I saw The Rock get beat by Stone Cold. You saw Stone Cold get beat by Vince. Whatever it was, you know what I'm saying? You had a conclusive ending that, I want to tune in next week, but it wasn't like a clusterfuck. You had an idea of like, oh, next week The Rock's going to get his revenge or whatever. There was a build-up for it, kind of like we had talked about before. It wasn't those 6 months to 18 months programs like we had talked about maybe back during the previous era we was just talking about, where you had an angle and it built to the next match is a no DQ, the next match is but when NWA WCW, it always seemed to be like kind of a fucked finish. Hogan wouldn't do the job, or who interrupted this time? Oh, another new member of the Outsiders, what have you. I'm just saying. But then on the other side, it seemed like there was a conclusive ending to the program, but it was enough of an ending, obviously, to make you want to tune back in the next week to Raw. And thus they just, you're not going to beat Vince at his own game.
No, and it got to the point where WCW kept going back to the well with the same shit over and over again.
Yeah.
It was like watching a dog get whipped for 6 weeks. It was just like, come on, man. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's, and the other thing is, I think you'll hear people say this all the time, Vince McMahon was playing with Vince McMahon money. Vince McMahon was, worried about where these dollars and pennies and things go. WCW had an unending bank account that nobody gave a fuck about. That they just
eventually did.
But I mean that was part of the
I know you're playing with someone else's paycheck or checkbook rather. Is one thing, but Vince is playing with his money. And that's the thing about that Attitude Era. It caught on. He caught on. He started doing his Mr. McMahon gimmick. You know what I'm saying? It's like this shit he caught on, man. He went with the changes, so to say. He wasn't doing the same thing for 6 weeks.
Right.
Thus the attitude, of all these different guys they had all the talent in the world, and seemed like they utilized them all in a proper way to have that kind of program. People were concerned, I think, when it went from 2 hours to 3 hours. Oh gosh, could they fill another hour? The only thing I will say about that, they were taking about the first 20 minutes of each segment, both companies, and you're doing these interviews and you're doing this in-ring bullshit stuff. Oh, this guy's interrupted. when I tuned in, I wanted to see wrestling, but that's the way it is. But at least you did get that wrestling in there. Maybe in a 2-hour period, you got 35 or 40 minutes of wrestling, something like that. I think over a 3-hour period, you only got like 48 minutes of wrestling or something nowadays. I don't know what it is. I'm just throwing them numbers out there, but I liked it when you was getting out of an hour, you did get, at least a good
of wrestling.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, that's the Attitude Era.
Yep. Speaking of Attitude Era, I got a puppy giving me an Attitude Era right now.
I can tell. Yeah. I can tell.
She's biting my foot and she's barking.
I heard her biting that little squeezy thing or something earlier.
That was my elbow. That was me.
Oh, okay.
I was squeaking because she bites hard.
That was you squeaking. Okay.
Bobby, would you mind if we took like a 5-minute break so I can try to get her outside?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
Sounds good.
We'll finish up.
Got it.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. I had to, puppy business to take care of there. I'm so glad I adopted a dog. I can't even begin to tell you. Yeah. Did you know cattle dogs like to bark in the middle of the night? Yeah, I didn't. I know it now.
Now you do. Yeah. Are they barking at cows or just barking?
Apparently what it is they develop that behavior to keep wolves and shit away.
Instinctively just bark out.
Yeah, because even just I'll walk through the room and say, just by instinct, she'll grab my heel and try to turn me around and send me somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's just, cow dogs do what cow dogs do.
Right on, man.
The rest of us have to learn our jobs, and they're born knowing how,
Well, let's jump to number 4 here, and we'll finish this up in just a few minutes. Go to territory days. We're talking, we can go to the 60s and 70s. Mm-hmm. There's obviously some in the 50s and then also in the 80s, but we're going to stick mainly to the 60s and 70s of just our fan base. And we won't mention everyone, but you had Amarillo, Atlanta, Memphis, Knoxville, Florida, Portland, the whole JCP, which we'll get to in just a few minutes, and then spoiler alert right there. And then you caught the whole Northeast, WWE up in that corridor we talked about. But it seemed like there was always a place to go. We mentioned Houston a while ago, San Antonio. There was Puerto Rico. Guys went there pretty regular. Just a lot of places. And we're not even mentioned AWA. I mean, you're talking Minnesota there, and then you're talking all the places that Vern and that group went through the 60s and 70s. A lot of towns they flew to, drove to several around Minneapolis area, but they also were doing Denver and I think Utah. Salt Lake rather. I was going to say Utah State, but and also didn't they come out to California some? If I'm not mistaken.
Because
at some point.
I think Roy Shire actually worked with Vern.
Yeah.
At some point, but also when Roy Shire folded, Vern took over San Francisco, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of places, and I think that if wishes with horses, beggars would ride, as I heard someone say once. I kind of wish it would get back to some of these territory days. That's probably not going to ever happen, but I think independently, if a guy is working and getting, get 2 or 3 people in a car or a truck, have you a van, and you can stay booked a lot on a Friday, Saturday night show, about every weekend or something going on somewhere. There are some shows that go on like a Sunday afternoon. If you get it lucky and get a Thursday night show with one group of guys, put on a show and then travel, 2 hours north and maybe do a Friday night gig and, pick up, head south I still think you can get about 12 to 16 bookings a month if you're out there, hustling your butt off. Now, the thing about it is you guys see, is it worth your while? Are you making enough money to survive? Or how much do you love this business? Are you just paying your dues? Or are you just doing it because, you love the business and you're going everywhere,
Yeah. I feel I would be remiss to not bring up Dave Marquez right now.
Okay.
Dave Marquez, besides his association with the NWA, Dave Marquez is now running wrestling in Arizona, Memphis, San Francisco, Hollywood, and a couple other locations. We're almost getting a Dave Marquez has his own territories kind of promotion out of him now.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, they're crowning their own world champion, or they either have, or they're getting ready to, the United Wrestling Network champion. So, a guy like him, maybe he's under most people's radar, but he's going to have a lot of wrestlers going through his hands and his territories and his locations. Maybe our best hope for some return to what feels like the territory days may be coming up through him.
Well, you had kind of mentioned last year, I think it was, we were talking about something along these same lines, is that at least like AEW, they're using guys and girls from other organizations. They're picking up some indie people. Again, you're getting some work there, and I think that's the main thing. And that's not even talking about like Impact or Ring of Honor or the other one I'm leaving off there. The
AEW.
Heck. No. I'm drawing a blank on that one.
Okay. New Japan?
No, hell, I can't remember.
Okay.
We done it on the tiers. But anyway, just saying, people have got places to go and work. NWA, if you could work for them a couple of shots a month when they do their tapings, if you could work for Dave Marquez, whether when he comes to the Memphis area or when he do it in L.A., wherever, or Arizona, where have you, and I'm just saying, man, a person get out there hustling, you can make some money. The one I'm thinking of, we had it on our radar there. Yes, thank you, Major League Wrestling. So you got some place you can go to work at, man. But that may, again, like you said, that might be the closest thing we get back to doing a territory thing. If they get out to, and again, who knows what's going on out there in the world with this whole COVID situation. But if it stays open like that, man, and you can get people back in the stands, you can get some guys traveling, and I would say you can stay booked, man, until you get on the radar for a AEW or for a WWE, and go down to the, I'd go to a seminar or go down to the damn performance center, if I thought I was that talented, or knew I was that talented, and try to be seen, man. And like I said, it's AEW bringing up some independent people,
Oh, yeah.
You just got to get out there, I think. And as a fan, hopefully, as things continue to go back up, open back up, rather, there'll be more and more shows to go to. Not just your bigger shows, but if Marquez is running 4 or 5 different markets there, I'm sure there's towns outside of those towns that are smaller markets that you could do a 2 or 3 night. If you go to Memphis, you could probably do it 2 or 3 towns, on that side of the country. Could be, like you said, it could be close as we get to. Oh shit! Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Hope that didn't bust your ears. I said that could be getting us back to the closest we get to a territory type situation again.
Yeah, like I don't think my brother and I have talked about this. There's really not a way to do it with the internet. You could never have the territories like you used to, but you can have something similar. And I think really all we want as fans is enough places for everybody to work and not get stuck into a singular style. Because, look, Bobby, there's a reason you and I don't really watch WWE. It's because what they produce, and I hate calling it content or product, but what they produce is not something that we find entertaining. We like that old Southern style of beat you in the fucking head wrestling, and I don't know what they do there. Every time I turn it on, there seems to be a guy in the ring playing guitar.
Well, I was thinking from the boys' perspective that if you got in with a Marquez or you got in with one of these companies, and you could stay busy doing, a couple shots this month for ASW, a couple shots for FTC next month. You know what I'm saying? If you could work, then you could work a couple shots for, Hollywood Championship Wrestling or what have you, is what I was getting at from one of the boys. That would be your territory, is your independent bookings, just staying out there on the road.
Yeah.
Cows are coming in.
What you're going to see, though, is, and I think he did a little bit with like Jock Sampson. He was holding 2 or 3 titles simultaneously from different promotions recently. And I think what you'll see is some of the guys in the indies going around with their 3 or 4 belts from the 3 or 4 places they work regularly, and blowing up their own reputations. But with that, also bringing up the place where they work. This brings to mind something I wanted to talk about. GCW apparently is a company I should know something about and pay attention to, but I'm just now discovering. So, I mean, there's stuff out there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know too much about them either. I just you had mentioned a little bit off the air. Maybe that's something I need to check out too, and check it out. But mentioning initials, let's do this instead of when you said GCW. Let's go to some NWA and some JCP. That's going to be our number one top. What we like, that era of wrestling from like the 80s through about 1988, all the JCP, man, that's a lot of our fan base. I know we've got, our Mid-South and our Memphis crews, and, we've got a lot of fans. We got a lot of fans worldwide, but, and we're thankful for that. We've got people in Canada. We've got people, where was that one place you told? I know we got some Australian listeners. Big shout out to, Ireland North Burgundy, New Jersey. Shout out to North Burgundy up there, Joey Diaz country, all the way out to California, down to Florida. I mean, we've got a lot of good listeners out there, but I dare say, man, the core of our listeners are really into that JCP, the early 80s through about 88, flares and funks and the Carolinas and Dusty Rhodes and the crews, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, the Road Warriors. I mean, I can go on. Everyone's going to know who I'm going to name from that territory,
The Four
That's just good
Horsemen.
stuff, man. Yeah. So there you go, man. Can't forget Arn and the boys,
That's
you
right.
know. So that's just that to me. That was that. You hear the excitement, man. That was to me a great time in pro wrestling, man. Just unbelievable. Tons of talent. When you watch the programming on TV, the interviews were great. They didn't dominate the show. And when someone spoke, it meant something. If Arn come out there and dropped them four fingers, it fucking meant something, And then the matches meant something. And then at the house shows, when you went to them, and I was fortunate enough to go to quite a few during that time because of my age at that time and the location I lived in. I drove a couple hours or caught a ride from anywhere from an hour to 2 hours away and went regular. And man, it was they never let me down, And I saw a lot of good wrestling. I went on a show, I think it's 86 in Huntington on an Easter show. And the Road Warriors working the Russians, it's just like, holy shit, man. I went to Charleston and saw, Rock and Roll Express working the Russians. Just stuff like that, some of those good memories. And then also got to see Harley Race come through, he wrestled Brody at time I was telling you about in Huntington. Got to see Flair several times in Charleston. This is back when I was just a fan too. That was the whole thing. Up until 88. I remember in 80 before I had my first match, and my first match was September 11th, 1988. But I remember where I'm at right now, not too far from where I live at. I was dating this girl. I mean, she got this big, nice TV at the time, and it had this remote with it, man. And I could flip through and watch two different wrestling at the same time. There was a syndicated show on one channel, and I was like, man, this chick's all right, man. She don't get upset that I sit here and watch wrestling. You know what I'm saying? It was like a Sunday night, and we'd be having dinner or whatever. I could flip around on a couple of different wrestling shows. This was like it was a big floor model for that time, But just saying, like, holy shit, I had two different wrestling programs on, and she had a nice remote, so that's not all she had. It was nice, but just saying, as a fan, you're like, woo, man, a lot of good wrestling.
Yep.
So, and I'm covering again from 80 through about 88. So you're talking 8-9 years. They're probably 79 to 80. Actually, we got TBS in 81 here, but we had Memphis from way back when. But again, we're talking JCP at this time. So we started getting the NWA and Georgia Championship and all that. But when that NWA and JCP come through, man, we were like all about it, man, all about it. Yeah. So you were seeing the guys on TV and a magazine and could see them in person.
Yeah. So, see, and over here, we were petered out kind of at that point, here in California.
Yeah.
So we really TV and magazines, and then you had to go on a long ass 2-hour drive. If you were lucky enough for something to be coming through.
Yeah.
You know, I just looked, and it looks like New South Wales, Queensland, and Victoria are big places in Australia. And,
okay, cool.
And of course, my dog's ancestral home is Queensland. So,
okay,
it's probably her family members.
It might be.
Yeah.
Tuning in to listen to Cow Dog.
Exactly. So
she's been active this episode.
Yeah. Boy, has she ever. Hey, Bobby, let's sell a couple books and go home. What do you say?
Yeah, sounds good to me, man. So, we just talked about this earlier before we went on the air with the affiliate count. If you would like to help this program just a small bit, we'd appreciate it. I have a few books. I'm going to try to sell you a couple books, and hopefully the program gets a couple of dollars back or kickback and help us out. And that is the professor here has set up a site, or a easier way to get to the link, I should say, site. The site is Amazon. Just go to Amazon. But if you'd like to help out, go to my first book, Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots Will Travel. Just go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1. It'll take you right to the site on Amazon. You can purchase the book there. And again, the program, the Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze podcast, gets a little bit of kickback. And I appreciate that very much. The second one of my second book is, I kicked out on two, The Educational Wrestler. And that is if you go to tinyurl.com/blazebook2. The good professor is taking care of that. All you have to do is use that link, and it's the affiliate account for Amazon, and the program does get a little bit of kickback out of that. And I get like I said, I always say, I get a smile on my face when I sell a book. And I really do. It's good for me. It's good for my own self morale, man. I'm just like, I get a couple of dollars off each book, and I'm really happy about that. But I'm more happy that someone's actually reading something that I wrote from my heart. And both those books, I wrote from the heart. Again, it's Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots Will Travel. That's at tinyurl.com/blazebook1. If you want, I kicked out on two, The Education Wrestler, go to tinyurl.com/blazebook2, and I'd appreciate it very much, and I'm sure the professor would as well, as does our podcast. We have a website. Jeremy, you want to tell them about the website real quick?
bell2bellblaze.com. And we are, if anybody out there is a writer, a short form writer who would maybe like to pitch us like a weekly or a bi-weekly thing, I don't think we could pay a lot, but we might be able to pay you for your time.
Yes.
So get over there, check us out, hit us up on Twitter, let us know. Jeremy, I did see your application for a guest spot. I don't know that we're doing anything with listeners, but I think maybe towards the end of this year, Bobby and I may kick around like a roundtable episode, so I'll keep you on file for then. Bobby, what else we got? I think that's it, right?
That's about it, man. I got a podcast I'm doing this week with a gentleman from over to England, James. Looking forward to that, doing a Zoom one. That'll be up on YouTube in the next few weeks, I'm sure. He's just finished up. I watched Tom Pritchard's, and he's got part runner Ricky Morton's up there, very first class, and then I'm going to be recording mine. I would have recorded this past week, but he was behind on some things, and we're going to record it this week, so I'm looking forward to that, and I'll update you on that. Again, if you can come out and see me and all these superstars up there in Beckley at Bash in Beckley next August the 7th. The doors open at 5. Matches take place at 7. I will be a part of that show with Shane Storm, Jerry the King Lawler, and Dennis Condrey, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to just getting a hang with my brother and a couple other people we have going with us, and I'll fill you in more on that next week as to how that goes. So thank you very much, Professor. I appreciate you coming on each week and take care of these programs. Hope all the fans enjoyed our top 5 errors in professional wrestling this week. So with that said, man, peace out. I'm good.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for checking us out. We will be back next week with another great episode of Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. Thank you for listening this week. For the late Tex Johnson, for Cow Dog, myself, Professor Jeremy Vilmur.
Shit, I spit all over the place. God damn it. I just spit water everywhere, Jeremy. I mean, it's everywhere. Damn you, you got me.
Well,
don't even worry about anything out of there. Finish it up. I got to clean this mess up. Damn, I just spit water everywhere. I'm going to try to take a drink. Finish this up.
You got it. And for Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, Double B Bobby Blaze, remember to check out his OnlyFans page. Bye-bye, everybody.
Oh. Man, I just stressed this damn keyboard and desk, microphone, everything. God damn it. I literally spit water everywhere. Holy cow. Hey, God. Cow dog, calm down. You got me all nervous, cow dog.
She does that.